Okay, chapter 1, part 2. So let me share our PowerPoints again. And I'm trying to pick the slide where we left off. So yes, and again, looking at your chapter on page 15, it has a long list of all these key terms. So it is vital that you understand the definition of each one and you're able to give an example. And the book helps you in that respect as well. So communication and identity. We need to understand, I got to forgetting to start the timer. We need to we need communication to understand and be understood. That's obvious. Communication helps us understand others and words, but take a look because words can mean different things to different people. The idea of your tone of voice, the pitch that I use, the duration, the pace in which I speak, my nonverbal gestures. So new experiences brings new challenges, new growth, and we have to realize that we want to expand in order to be an effective communicator, not just understanding the village or hamlet or a town or a city that we grew up in. So as we continue, society, which is a group of people with mutual interests and participation in activities, as well as common values, customs, and language, has a set of expectations for its members and influence. So our society, education is primary. So we want you to have a full education, including college. Even a gap year is considered education because you're working in a community or an environment. Communication is a dynamic system, means that it's like a prism. It has so many different sides to it. It's complex. And we form concepts about our identities and display our cultural affiliations in distinct ways, depending on the cultures or languages which we were born. So again, American society, we have sports and things like that. Certain communities might not because they don't have the money to have that in primary education. Okay, importance of intercultural communication, learning to listen. I'm a biggie on listening because we weren't really taught to listen. So we have to learn how to use our listening process along with our speaking, writing, and reading skills. And observe will serve you in the moment, but research and reading before you enter a new culture or context can help you prepare for communication in that particular environment. So it's just like going for a job interview. You don't just show up. You need to understand what the company does. Is it a pharmaceutical company? Is it a food company? So you do need to do your investigation. So the same thing here. You even entering into this class, you thought about it before you came into it. You thought about what this course would entail. So communication skills are the top skills that potential employees seek. So yes, it's no longer a soft skill because we're dealing with people, whether the people are face to face, as we are now, which is not in person face to face, but face to face, or it's technological. You need to know the full range of how to better communicate within cultures. So, important communication definitions. Obviously, communication, the process of understanding and sharing a meaning. And we think, okay, I speak English, you speak English, we're done. We have different dialects. So, for example, if you worked in a restaurant and you said to your friend, oh, today I got cut from work. They may think you got sliced, by a knife. Meanwhile, there weren't enough, people in the restaurant, so they sent you home. So simple things like that we take for granted, but we do have different meanings for different words. So communication is it's hard. Process, a dynamic activity that is hard to describe because it changes. It's a process meaning step by step. So we're going to identify in the next chapter what the models of communication are between speaker and listener and environment. Understanding, to perceive, to interpret, and to relate our perception and interpretation to what we already know. So we do that. As you're listening to this, how am I connecting it to something I've heard in the past? Or how can I apply it to something I've done in the past? Because our frame of reference is past experiences, knowledge, feelings, emotions, attitudes, beliefs. This is all of what we already know. So anything new, like a magnet, it connects. Sharing, doing something together with one or more than other people. So sometimes we understand when you're a little kid, you share your toys, but as you grow up, you may have emotion sharing, is sharing stories to your friends. Meaning what we share through communication. So you may share something different with a friend than with a parent because it has different meaning to that person. So in your introduction, it said that we were going to discuss 8 essential components of communication. So we have the source of communication. So that usually is the speaker. The message is the stimulus or the meaning produced by the source. So what is going to be expressed, the verbiage, or it could be nonverbal, it could be and nonverbal aiding the verbal channel. So in which way are you sending these messages to other listeners who are receiving it? Is it one-to-one? Is it one-to-many? Receiver is the person, okay, or the listener. So in our purposes for our class, the source is the speaker and the receiver is the listener. So we want to make sure the goal of speaking is to be wanting to be understood. And then that entails, how do I know I'm understood? But by the feedback you provide. And your environment encompasses the atmospheres of physicalness in which you send and receive messages. So you're creating your own atmosphere if you take an online class. So it should be an environment that you particularly enjoy working in. Sometimes when you go to an in-class or in-person class, it might be, the chairs may be uncomfortable. So sometimes the environment does add again to your communication interpretation of either like or dislike. And the context is the setting, scene, expectations of the individuals involved. So again, context. Am I in person? Is there going to be question and answer? Am I ready for Q&A? And interference includes anything that blocks or changes the source's intended meaning of that message. So even interference with words, interference with a fire alarm. So there can be different ways that the information is blocked. Communication can be viewed as transactional process. And this means that a sender and a receiver is doing it at the same time. It's not me speaking and then the listener, their time to give feedback. So what time is it? 4 o'clock. Okay, that is more linear. But in a sender receiver, everybody is sending and receiving at the same time. You could be talking to your friend. I passed my history. Oh, I remember when so that form of interruption. And here's a good model of that. And it's also in your book, and you could take a look at that. So the constructivist model focuses on the negotiated meaning or common ground when trying to define communication. So what do we have where that we clearly understand where we are and what we're saying? So if you take a history class, constructivist, you're going to learn about history, okay? Sometimes this is a problem because if I take a science class and I say, oh my God, this is a math problem, I have to change centigrade into Fahrenheit. So that's where we may get a little bit uneasy because we have this constructivist model. And again, in your picture, in your book, there's a good picture of that. So here's your big definition. Culture involves beliefs, attitudes, values, and traditions that are shared by a group of people. It is what humans create, both physical and psychological. So this is your definition of culture. As you can see, there is no specific word religion, but religion would be included in some beliefs, perhaps. Intracultural communication within the same culture. So if you go to a particular club and the Italian club or something, intracultural. Ethnocentrism is the tendency to view other cultures as inferior to your own, and that's what we want to stay away from. So intrapersonal, that involves self-talk. It's how how do I what do I know about myself? Interaction between two people, and group, three or more is considered a group. And we have intercultural communication in all these types of communication, plus public communication one-to-many. So, 100 people in your crowd that you're speaking with, definitely you're going to see intercultural and mass communication. Speaking to the masses, definitely multiple intercultural communication situations. So there you have a little highlight of chapter 1. Definitely read the book, fill in the blanks, learn the terminologies, and then move to chapter 2. Okay, we'll see you in chapter 2. I'll stop sharing and